In the world of elite automotive performance, horsepower is a loaded weapon, and the engine control unit, the ECU, is the trigger. Most people think making a car fast is just about bolting on bigger turbos and pouring in racing fuel. They think it's just raw mechanical force. But when you are dealing with a $3 million hypercar producing over 1,500 horsepower, raw force will only result in an explosion of shattered aluminum and titanium. True speed is found in the code. As a master calibrator, I don't build engines, I give them a brain. I write the software algorithms that dictate the exact millisecond a spark plug fires, how much fuel is injected down to the microgram, and how the transmission manages thousands of pounds of torque. A single mathematical error in the volumetric efficiency tables, and a masterpiece of engineering turns into a localized bomb. I spent my entire career writing the invisible code that keeps these incredible machines alive at the absolute limit. I just never realized that while I was obsessively preventing catastrophic engine failure in my dyno cell, the engine driving my own marriage had already thrown a rod. My name is Julian, I'm 36 years old, and I am a lead engine calibration engineer and ECU software developer. 5 years ago, I married Sloan. Sloan was a high-powered, fiercely ambitious public relations director for the luxury motorsport industry. She thrived in the glamorous, high-octane world of VIP paddocks, exclusive track days, and billionaire collectors. I was the introverted engineer who spent 14 hours a day in a windowless, exhaust-scented dyno cell, staring at spreadsheets. We were a classic pairing of opposites. I wrote the code that made the cars win, and she sold the victory to the sponsors. For 4 agonizing years, I poured every ounce of my personal savings, my sanity, and my genius into my absolute magnum opus. I called it the Chimera Protocol. It wasn't just a basic engine tune, it was a revolutionary, adaptive, AI-driven engine management system. My software could analyze atmospheric pressure, tire slip, and fuel octane in real time, adjusting the engine's parameters with zero latency to provide absolutely perfect traction and power delivery. It was the absolute holy grail of the global hypercar industry. Major automotive manufacturers were spending tens of millions of dollars trying to write software even close to it. The intellectual property and the source code for the Chimera Protocol were conservatively appraised at $12 million. I promised Sloan this software was our golden ticket. I told her that when I finalized the code, we would license the patent, launch our own boutique performance firm, and she would be the most powerful executive in the motorsport world. But Sloan didn't want to build a brand from the ground up. She looked at my laptop, my exhausted eyes, and the sterile walls of my workspace, and she decided she wanted the $12 million, but she wanted to share the winner circle with someone else.
The top layers of our marriage started to peel away when Sloan's PR agency signed a massive new client, an emerging, aggressive boutique hypercar manufacturer. The CEO of that company was a man named Vance. Vance was 42 years old and the absolute poster boy for corporate arrogance. He wasn't an engineer. He couldn't tell the difference between a camshaft and a crankshaft. He was a ruthless venture capitalist who bought up small, passionate engineering firms, slapped his aggressive logo on their chassis, and sold them to the masses under a luxury label. He wore custom racing suits, flew his private jet between Miami and Dubai, and treated brilliant software engineers like disposable IT support. Suddenly, Sloan was spending all her time at Vance's Glass Tower headquarters, claiming she was restructuring his global motorsport strategy for the European market. The red flags didn't just quietly appear, they triggered a massive shift light on my dashboard. First, the profound, unapologetic disrespect. Sloan started actively belittling my life's work. "Julian, you need to wake up," she scoffed one evening, tossing her $4,000 designer handbag onto my workbench. "Vance manages a $500 million supply chain. He commands the global exotic car market. You've been sitting in a loud room typing on a laptop for 4 years and haven't made a single dime. You lack corporate vision. Nobody cares about your ignition timing. They care about the badge on the hood." Second, the intense, unnatural secrecy regarding her devices. Sloan changed the passcode on her phone and her laptop. She started taking crisis marketing calls in her car, sitting in the driveway with the engine running for 40 minutes before coming inside. Third, and by far the most terrifying, was her sudden, highly specific interest in my server architecture. Sloan, a woman who absolutely loathed the noise and smell of my dyno cell, suddenly asked me exactly where I kept the physical flash drive containing the master source code for the Chimera protocol, and if the software was ready to be flashed onto an ECU. When a PR executive suddenly cares about the encryption status of $12 million software algorithm, you don't answer the question. You check the telemetry logs.
When you keep a $12 million proprietary software algorithm on a hard drive, you don't just rely on a simple Wi-Fi password. My entire laboratory was routed through a custom telemetry mainframe that logged every single byte of data transfer, every IP address, and every login attempt on the local network. One Saturday night, when Sloan was supposedly at a weekend wellness retreat in the city, my phone vibrated with a critical priority alert from the lab. I pulled my car into an empty parking lot, opened my secure server app, and tapped into the network feed. Someone was actively attempting to execute a mass file transfer from my secure development server to an unauthorized external cloud storage locker. I didn't storm into the lab. I simply isolated the connection, artificially slowed the transfer speed to a crawl to buy myself time, and mirrored her laptop screen directly to my iPad. She had her encrypted messaging app open, communicating directly with Vance. I didn't just find an affair. I found a premeditated multi-million-dollar corporate heist. Vance wrote, "My lead engineers just reviewed the code snippets you sneaked out last week. They are completely losing their minds. The adaptive traction logic is 5 years ahead of anything Ferrari or McLaren has. If we flash this software onto our new flagship hypercar at the global unveil in Geneva next month, our stock valuation will triple. Have you secured the master source code yet?" Sloan replied, her words dripping with a casual, horrifying cruelty that made the blood freeze in my veins. "I'm copying the master repository from his server right now. The idiot actually thinks I care about his stupid laptops. Tomorrow, when he goes to his engineering symposium in Detroit, I'll take the master hard drive. Before I leave, I'll take a sledgehammer to his backup servers and stage a break-in. He'll be completely devastated. We launch the car in Geneva, I'll serve him with divorce papers, and we'll be on your yacht. He's just a naive mechanic, Vance. He won't be able to fight your corporate lawyers." Vance responded, "You're a visionary, my love. The mechanic is going to fund our entire empire." I sat alone in the dark, silent cab of my car, staring at the glowing screen as my entire reality shattered. My wife of 6 years was sleeping with a corporate parasite. Together, they were actively plotting to steal 4 years of my blood, sweat, and genius, intentionally sabotage my laboratory, launch my masterpiece on the biggest stage in the world, and leave me completely destitute, believing my work was destroyed. They thought I was just a naive mechanic. They didn't understand the level of absolute unmitigated digital destruction a master calibrator is capable of programming.
If you want to destroy a fraudulent automotive CEO, you don't slash his tires. You let him steal your software, you let him flash it on a $3 million hypercar, you let him invite the wealthiest buyers and journalists in the world, and then you quietly let the code do its job. I didn't confront her. If I yelled and locked the lab, Vance's army of corporate lawyers would bury me in injunctions, claim they had a verbal contract to the software, and tie me up in court for a decade until I went bankrupt. I needed them to steal the code. I needed Vance to proudly rev the engine of his new hypercar on live television. So I went to work on the back end. I took the true, uncompiled master source code for the Chimera protocol, encrypted it with a 256-bit key, and moved it to an air-gapped hard drive that I locked in a bank vault. Then I turned my attention to the cloned code they were planning to steal. To Vance's highly paid, arrogant software engineers, the cloned code I left on the server would look absolutely flawless. It would compile perfectly. When they flashed it onto the hypercar's ECU in their private testing facility, the engine would start perfectly. The idle would be smooth. The power delivery on the dyno would look incredible. But deeply embedded in the absolute foundational math of the launch control execution protocol, buried so deep in the hex code that no QA tester on Earth would ever find it, I wrote a logic bomb. I didn't use a timer. I used a specific throttle position trigger. I knew Vance's massive ego. I knew that at the absolute climax of the Geneva unveil, to prove the car's power to the crowd, he would engage launch control, stump the accelerator pedal to 100%, and dump the clutch to do a massive burnout off the stage. I coded the software so that if launch control was engaged and the throttle position sensor hit 100%, the payload would execute. It wouldn't blow up the engine. I'm an engineer, not a murderer. It would violently alter the fuel injection and ignition timing. Instead of delivering perfect power, the ECU would instantly dump raw, unburned racing fuel directly into the exhaust manifold while simultaneously retarding the ignition timing by 40 degrees. The engine wouldn't launch the car forward. It would instantly bog down, violently misfire, and emit a deafening, terrifying backfire. And more importantly, the raw fuel hitting the hot exhaust would create a massive, inescapable, blinding cloud of thick, choking, pitch-black smoke that would completely envelop the car, the stage, and everyone on it. It would look exactly like a catastrophic multi-million-dollar engine failure. And as a final touch, I routed the car's infotainment system to hijack the venue's Bluetooth audio network and broadcast the audio file of Sloan and Vance's WhatsApp conversation on a continuous loop. I left the rigged folder on my desktop. I allowed her transfer to complete. I listened to the front door close as my wife stole my life's work, thinking she had just pulled off the heist of the century. The next morning, I packed my bags for my symposium in Detroit. I kissed Sloan goodbye. "Have a great trip, Jillian," she smiled, handing me my coffee. "Take care of the lab, Sloan," I replied, looking her dead in the eyes. "You know that project is my masterpiece." "I'll guard it with my life," she promised. I drove away. I let her bring the thieves into my sanctuary. I let them steal the bomb. Now they just had to press the accelerator.
I didn't fly to Detroit. I drove straight to the downtown offices of the most aggressive, ruthless intellectual property and corporate fraud litigator in the automotive industry. I sat down at his mahogany conference table. I handed him my original time-stamped code logs. I handed him the high-definition security footage and the crystal-clear iCloud transcripts of Sloan and Vance explicitly conspiring to commit corporate espionage and stage a break-in at my lab. And finally, I handed him the official, federally approved patent documentation for the Chimera protocol, which I had secretly expedited and secured exclusively in my own name a month prior. My wife and her accomplice are going to debut this stolen, patented software in a prototype hypercar at the Geneva Motor Show next weekend, I told my lawyer calmly. My lawyer reviewed the documents, read the chat logs, and slowly smiled like a shark smelling blood in the water. "Julian, utilizing stolen, patented software to solicit tens of millions of dollars from international buyers is a massive federal violation. If he presents this to boost his corporate valuation, we won't just sue him. The SEC and international authorities will literally liquidate his entire automotive conglomerate." "Draft the paperwork," I said, "but do not file the injunction yet. Do not stop the unveil. Let him flash the ECU. Let him get behind the wheel. I want him to put his face on it in front of the whole world." On Wednesday afternoon, my phone notified me that the lab doors had been breached. Through the hidden cameras, I watched Vance's crew illegally steal my backup servers. Sloan then intentionally took a sledgehammer to my monitors and hard drives to fake a catastrophic break-in. She left a white envelope containing divorce papers on a dry counter and walked out. They were laughing. They thought they had just executed the perfect, untouchable heist. They had no idea they had just flashed a digital grenade into their own engine bay.
Saturday afternoon, live from the Palexpo in Geneva, the undisputed center of the global hypercar industry. I sat in my dark hotel room, watching the global broadcast in high definition. The live stream had over 3 million viewers. Vance was hyping up the crowd from the driver's seat, the window rolled down, absolutely dripping with unearned confidence. The camera panned to the VIP section, and I saw Sloan standing there, holding a glass of champagne, looking incredibly proud, believing she had just conquered the world. "Ladies and gentlemen," Vance yelled into a microphone, his voice echoing through the massive hall. "For years, my in-house team has been building the impossible. Tonight, we don't just reveal a car, we reveal the future of speed. Listen to the roar of perfection." The crowd went absolutely wild. Vance revved the engine a few times. It sounded incredible. He beamed, looking like a god of the industry. Then, he looked at the cameras and smirked. He pressed the launch control button on the steering wheel. I looked at the telemetry monitor on my laptop. He stomped the accelerator pedal to the floor. Throttle position, 100%. My logic bomb, executed. In a fraction of a millisecond, the ECU bypassed all safety protocols. It dumped massive quantities of raw fuel into the engine and violently retarded the timing. On the live global broadcast, right in front of the most elite crowd on Earth, the magic violently died. Instead of a deafening roar and a perfect launch, the $3 million hypercar emitted a horrific, stuttering, violent bang. It sounded like a cannon going off inside the exhaust. The engine violently bogged down, shaking the entire chassis. Then came the smoke.
A massive, incredibly dense, blinding cloud of thick, toxic, pitch-black smoke violently erupted from the exhaust pipes. It didn't just puff, it billowed out like a burning oil well, instantly engulfing the entire rear of the car, the stage, and the front row of journalists. The fire alarms in the massive exhibition hall instantly triggered, blaring a deafening siren. The reporters in the front row gasped in sheer horror, stepping back, coughing and covering their faces as the thick black smoke washed over them. "What the hell is happening?" Vance screamed from inside the cabin, totally unhinged, frantically trying to shut the engine off. But the logic bomb kept the engine running, sputtering and pouring out black smoke, making it look like the entire $3 million car was catastrophically self-destructing. Then the infotainment hijack engaged. Instead of the promotional video, the venue's massive PA system, now synced to the car's Bluetooth, blasted the raw audio file of Sloan and Vance's conversation at maximum volume. Sloan's voice boomed over the fire alarms. "I'll take a sledgehammer to his backup servers and stage a break-in. He's just a naive mechanic, Vance. He won't be able to fight your corporate lawyers." Vance's voice echoed back, completely undeniable. "You're a visionary, my love. The mechanic is going to fund our entire empire." The entire convention hall went dead, pin-drop silent beneath the sirens. And then, absolute apocalyptic chaos erupted. In the VIP section, Sloan dropped her champagne glass. It shattered on the floor. She put her hands over her mouth, her face turning the color of wet concrete, staring at the smoking car in pure horror. The elite investors in the crowd stared at her in absolute disgust. The livestream chat completely broke. 3 million people had just watched the CEO of a luxury brand blow up his own flagship car and confess to corporate theft on live television. Before Vance's security could even attempt to escort him off the stage, the heavy doors of the convention hall burst open. Local authorities and Interpol agents marched directly onto the floor. I took a slow, deeply satisfying sip of my coffee, smiled at the chaotic, smoking live stream, and texted my lawyer. Cut the ignition.
You cannot recover from smoking out an entire exhibition hall and broadcasting a confession to corporate theft in front of the global automotive press. The fallout was an absolute, unmitigated corporate massacre. The video of the hypercar violently misfiring and billowing black smoke went viral globally within 10 minutes. By Sunday morning, Vance was the biggest laughingstock in the history of the automotive industry. The wealthy investors who had funded the prototype immediately pulled their money and filed massive lawsuits against Vance's conglomerate for gross misrepresentation, fraud, and corporate espionage. Because Vance had utilized stolen, patented software to solicit hundreds of millions of dollars from international buyers, the SEC and international authorities launched an immediate, devastating investigation into his firm. His entire empire completely collapsed. His bank accounts were frozen, he was ousted as CEO, and he was indicted for massive corporate fraud, facing years in federal prison. Sloan's life was vaporized. Vance, realizing he was facing total ruin, immediately blamed her. He told investigators that she was a rogue PR director who had supplied him with the stolen malicious software without his knowledge, throwing her to the wolves to save himself. She called me from a hotel room in Geneva, sobbing so hard she was hyperventilating. Julian, please. The investors are suing me. Vance dumped me. The car exploded in smoke. You have to tell them you made a mistake with the code. Please, I have nothing." "I didn't make a mistake, Sloan," I said calmly, leaning back in my chair. "I gave you exactly what you stole. You just forgot to check the launch control parameters. I heard your audio file, by the way. Check your email. You've been served with a federal IP lawsuit. Enjoy the smoke." I hung up and blocked her number. During our divorce settlement, she had absolutely zero leverage. Because she was facing criminal charges for corporate espionage and property damage against me, the judge awarded me 100% of the marital assets and denied her any alimony. She walked away with millions in legal debt, a felony record, and a permanently ruined reputation.
It's been almost 3 years since that auto show in Geneva. After the dust finally settled and the lawsuits were paid out, I licensed the real, fully functioning, flawless source code for the Chimera protocol. I didn't sell it to a flashy venture capitalist. I sold the exclusive rights to a legendary, highly respected global hypercar manufacturer, a company that actually understands software engineering, respects the physics, and treats its calibrators like true partners. I made enough money from that single contract to buy my own massive commercial testing facility, hire a full team of engineers, and my business has never been better. Last I heard, Sloan avoided a long prison sentence by taking a plea deal, but she is completely blacklisted from the luxury automotive and PR industries globally. She is currently working at a budget rental car desk at the airport, handing over keys to cheap sedans, knowing every single day that she voluntarily threw away her golden ticket to the absolute top of the industry. Vance, completely bankrupt and ruined, is currently serving a 6-year sentence for massive securities fraud. He has no hypercars, no bespoke suits, and definitely no launch control. If there is a lesson to be learned here, it's a simple one. Never try to hijack a machine if you don't know the engineer who wrote the code. If your partner thinks they can steal your hard work, push you into the shadows, and take the spotlight for themselves, don't try to pull the plug. Don't fight them for the laptop. Smile, hand them the flash drive, let them flash the ECU, and let them confidently invite the whole world to watch. And right when they think they've achieved absolute perfection, let them press the accelerator and watch their entire fake reality go up in smoke. Thanks for listening to my story. If you enjoyed this one, drop a like, hit subscribe, and let me know in the comments, what's the most embarrassing technological failure you've ever witnessed? Stay sharp, trust the code, and always check your telemetry.